Hi, everyone. This is Scott Spence. I'm the Artistic Director at Beck Center. And during this time of COVID-19, we're keeping out in front of you a little bit by doing a video blog series called Above the Waist. And I am thrilled to already be on episode number 4. Once again, this week, we have a Beck Center alum who has gone on to do amazing things. And I'm so glad to welcome our guest today, Trista Moldovan. Hi, Trista.
Hi. Hi, Cleveland.
How's everything going with you?
Yeah, good. My husband and I are hunkering down up here in Washington Heights in New York, and we have our little community up here. We've got a grocery store about a block away, and we're definitely very grateful for everything. We're safe and healthy, and
Wonderful.
Enjoying.
Wonderful. New York must be just like apocalyptic just to be out on the streets, even when you have to go out. It must be so very different.
Yeah, it's apocalyptic in that it's sort of, there's this like underlying anxiety when you go outside. It's really kind of quiet up in our neighborhood, but 20 blocks down is Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, and we sort of live on the top of a hill, and without the traffic in New York City, you can hear all of the sirens, which fortunately, just as of a few days ago, has subsided a little bit. But when we were at the peak of the virus, it was constant, and so there was just this like constant reminder of what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, a very odd place to be, I guess, anywhere you are is during this time. So one of the first questions I always ask is, where were you when this all hit? Did you have a project that was interrupted, or were you in between?
In between, at the, let's see, I think it was February 3rd, we closed the Phantom of the Opera tour in Toronto. We were sort of starting to hear murmurings about this virus, and I don't think they had declared it a pandemic at that point. So we came home, and we were ready to hunker down, as you do after any project in unemployment, and but we were also ready to pound the pavement. I had a few auditions, and then I think a few weeks later, everything just stopped.
Were you on tour with your husband, Stephen?
Yeah, so I did the Phantom tour, this most recent one, for 3 years, and the last year he was able to join me. So we toured for a year together. It was really fun, and we closed it together. Moved into our new apartment, and so we're very grateful in that we were settled. Unlike a lot of people whose tours are on hiatus right now for the foreseen future. So we have a lot to be grateful for.
Good positive outlook on that. So back before all of this began, you have a connection with Beck Center. I always love to talk a little bit about that. And we first met you in my production of Cabaret in 1990 something. You probably know the dates. After all these years, I've kind of either forgotten them or I've blocked them. But I believe that you were of a tender age when you did a Kit Kat Girl. Tell us a little bit about that and your other connections to Beck.
Yeah, I think I was like 14 years old, maybe 15, when my parents drove me to Beck Center. I think we saw a notice in the paper, and I didn't know what cabaret was, and I'm like, great, singing, dancing. This will be a great first experience for someone who likes to do those things. And I remember Martin Cespedes choreographed it, and I remember doing that dance call and being like kind of embarrassed and shy, but I did it, and I remember you called me and you're like, I'd like you to be the swing for our production and be in the ensemble. I'm like, what's a swing? And you had to explain to me what a swing was. But for that being my first experience, I think for the most part in a musical, I think that was probably my first like really solid musical on like a main stage. What a great first experience, and what a gift to be able to like just have your first experience be a swing. And for anyone who doesn't know what a swing is, it basically means that you cover all of the ensemble. I covered all of the ensemble women And I was in the ensemble. I covered all the dancers, so I had to learn all of those parts. And I did get to go on a couple times. So it was a great way to get off and running in this crazy career.
And then you did a little bit of work after that with our youth theater while you were still in high school. Is that right?
Yeah. So I did cabaret on the main stage, and I'm like, I want to pursue this with like people of my own age, because people in cabaret, they were adults. And, I went and I started taking class at Beck Center. It's like, this is a really cool place. I want to be part of this community. So I started taking acting classes there, and met people that I'm still in touch with to this day. And then I did chess on the main stage. It was in the summertime.
Right. Yeah, that was one of our first summer shows when we finally started a program in the summer. Yeah, that's a big show. One I've thought about. I didn't get to direct that one. I turned that over to another team, but someday it's one of my guilty pleasure musicals.
Oh my gosh, it's so great. And I love it. It's so dated. Like, the music is so dated, but like, if you do it, it would be so much fun just to like go all out in the 80s and really indulge in that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great period piece now. So after tooling around at Beck, doing a couple shows, doing some youth theater, clearly the bug had bit you somewhat. So you auditioned or you enrolled at BW, but your musical theater career didn't begin there right away. You had to actually either audition maybe twice. Tell us about that, because we have such a great, I know you know of our great collaboration with BW. This coming year, we're going to announce our 10th anniversary collaboration show.
Oh my gosh, it's such a great symbiotic relationship that you guys have. I've been, looking at like the B-roll of everything that you guys do together, and it's awesome. It makes so much sense for like the thriving theater community that Cleveland has. It makes so much sense. Going back to like the gift that people give you, the gift that you gave me, like cabaret, I was rejected at BW when I initially auditioned. But looking back, that was such a great lesson in persistence and really going for your dreams, because I could have given up. I could have been like, I don't want to pursue this. But I went to BW anyway, not as a musical theater major, and I was able to get into some of the musical theater classes as a non-major. And then that's when I got I got to work with Vicki Bussert for the first time, and taking class with her, she saw my potential, and she's like, why don't you audition again? And I did, and I got in. I started my junior year as a musical theater major, and
wow.
Yeah, it was great. It was it was my first taste of persistence, and that like things don't always work out the way that you want them to, but if you're passionate about something, you need to keep going for it. And I remember thinking like, I'm gonna do this no matter what. And and here I am, still doing it to this day.
Have any of your other graduating seniors in your year gone on to have some real success? Who do you still keep in touch with?
Yeah, oh gosh, I had such an amazing class. There's a lot of us are here in New York City. Kevin Thomas is here. He's doing a lot of music directing stuff. He does a really fantastic podcast called Behind the Curtain, where he interviews, he and his partner interview people who have been in the business forever, and they have amazing stories. Kevin and his wife just had a baby recently, and then there's Jill Pace, who has had a prolific Broadway career.
I'd forgotten that Jill was right there with you.
Yeah. So we graduated together. Dan Marshall, Brian Marshall is his brother. Brian and Pierre, of course, run Mercury Summer Stock in Cleveland. Right. And Brian works for the Metropolitan Opera here, and he's also a wonderful writer, musical theater writer. Who else? Thomasina Gross is in LA. She does a lot of television. And then actually, so my husband's son lives in Asheville, North Carolina. And someone else I graduated with, Dulcie Ellenberger, I just saw her recently in Asheville, North Carolina. And she's in a few bands there, and music is very much a part of her life.
Yeah, it's always a great measure of success. There's so many great folks that come out of BW. You had actually also mentioned too that you were cohorts with one of the Beck alums at the time you were there, which was my first above the waist guest, Rory O'Malley, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I love Rory. I saw him a little while ago in Los Angeles when I was doing Bridges of Madison County at the Amundsen. And in Bridges of Madison County, it was the Broadway national tour of it. I got to understudy the role that Kelly O'Hara was nominated
Right.
for. And I actually got to go on for the role one matinee. It was the first time I'd ever gone on for it. I was so nervous. And Rory came and he saw the show. Like I didn't
That's great.
coming, but he got wind that I was going on, and he kind of dropped everything and he came, and it was so wonderful. It was kind of like a full circle moment.
How much notice did you have as an understudy that you were going on? These are always some of the best stories out there.
Yeah, great. It was definitely an experience I'll never forget. I think it was the matinee. It was the Wednesday matinee that I went on, and I think the Tuesday before, the girl Elizabeth Stanley, who's now starring in Jagged Little Pill on Broadway, Elizabeth Stanley wasn't feeling well, and she let our stage management team know that she wasn't going to be on for the matinee. So luckily I had a sleepless night to prepare before the matinee, so I had a little bit of notice.
Okay, well, not much though, and it's amazing. People are always amazed how little put-in time you really get. Depending on tour, and in New York, sometimes you don't really go through it till you do it.
No, I mean, I've heard so many stories about understudies on Broadway in new productions who do not have any rehearsal at all. Like they get shot out of a cannon, and all they have is like the peripheral experience of watching the people that they're covering during rehearsals. But you know what? I think I personally kind of thrive on that. And I think anyone who is in this business thrives on the uncertainty of that.
Right. You just need a little confidence. You get out there and no one's ever the wiser.
Yeah.
Except maybe the stage manager.
Hopefully. I love it when you go on for the first time. I've heard this said a couple times, like, well, no one died. No,
Right.
it's a success.
Yeah, you hope that's the end result anyway.
Right.
So clearly after school, so for instance, and we're going to talk a lot more about Phantom, but was this the Bridges, was that pre-Phantom, or was that after you played Christine in New York?
That was kind of like sandwiched in the Phantom sandwich.
Okay, and there's a lot, because you've been back and forth with that a lot, and I want to definitely, like I said, talk about that. But maybe before we do, talk a little bit about some of your regional theater work that you were heading toward before the big New York experience.
Yeah, I think around the United States, there are theaters that are just so wonderful and so amazing, and they're I feel like some of my favorite experiences in theater in my career have been in regional theater, with the best like directors, and the thing about regional theater is you usually get a very like robust rehearsal period, so as opposed to like a Broadway show where it's a business, so time is money, and you get like 2 weeks of rehearsal, and you kind of get thrown on. But with regional theater, you get to sit down and you get to have a table read for a few days, and you get to really, really dig into your characters. So I've been very, very lucky. Before I was a part of Phantom of the Opera, I get to work in some amazing regional theaters. Denver Center for the Performing Arts, and Arkansas Repertory Theater, Bay Street Theater, and they get like the creme de la creme of creatives to be a part of that. And I've been very, very fortunate to walk through that rehearsal period with some amazing creative people.
Yeah, no, I recently, about 3 years ago, finally got to tour the Denver Center and see something there. So, being from a land of Playhouse Square, which is another, thriving, group of theaters, under one canopy, it was great to see the Denver Center, and I could see how any performer would be envious, to work there.
Yeah, Denver Center and Playhouse Square. I mean, like, those are two gems that this country has as far as like theater community.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so regional theater prepped you for the big jump. So tell us, first of all, clearly, it's so exciting that Beck has two alums that have gone on to do Christine Daae, and you, of course, to do even more than that. But tell us about your experience with your audition for Phantom and, how it all started.
Yeah, in 2008, I got a call from my agent saying they want to see you for Phantom of the Opera for an appointment. Now, before that, I think in the 6 years that I had been living in New York, I had gone to like every single equity call for Phantom of the Opera, which is when you, I think they do signups online now, but it used to be that you used to have to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning and stand in line and wait to get an appointment. So I did a few rounds of that, and every time I would always kind of see them watching me and maybe take a note or two, but nothing ever came of it. But in 2008, they actually wanted to see me, which basically means that like there's a job opening. So I went in and I sang Think of Me, and the creative team asked me to sit out in the hallway for a minute. And then they asked me to come back in and sing Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again. And I just remember like being really connected, and I had been listening to Phantom of the Opera, the double cassette tape, since I was like a little girl. So,
right.
And singing this music for a very, very long time. So I remember just standing there and being like, okay, you're just in your living room and you're just doing what you love. So I did that. I sang and said, thank you very much. And I left. And then it was, after that, it was a very, very quick process. My agent called me the next day. And I remember him saying, hey, don't you love it when your hard work pays off? And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, they want to offer you a contract with Phantom. And, it was just like such a beautiful moment, because you work so hard, and talking about rejection again, you just get so many rejections. And it was just a wonderful moment when it really did feel like all of my hard work paid off. So I got the that one yes, and then I had to pack up my apartment, and they wanted me to join the tour, pack up my entire life, and head out on the road. And it was life-changing. So I started in the ensemble, and then a few weeks later there was this domino effect that doesn't really happen a lot. That didn't really happen a lot in the Phantom world, where the Christine Daae on Broadway was taking a maternity leave. So they took the Christine on tour, put her on Broadway, and then it was a very fast jump for me. They plucked me out of the ensemble and offered me the role of Christine, which is what happens. It's kind of in the show. So it was sort of like art imitating life.
Right.
I had, I think, like 3 weeks to learn Christine. It was like being shot out of a cannon, and then I started doing it. I did it for 2 years on the road. And then the tour closed. Then after that, I moved home to New York and started auditioning again. And I was meant to be in the Broadway production of Evita, that production with Ricky Martin.
Right.
I was cast in that, and I thought that was going to be my first Broadway show. Then I get a call from my agent saying, hey, I've got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is you're not doing Evita anymore. And I was like, oh no,
What happened?
the show did the show shutter? What happened? He's like, well, the good news is they want you to come do Christine on Broadway. That was, again, life-changing. So, yeah, I got that call, had like a quick refresher, and then I did Christine on Broadway for about a year.
The whole year.
Yeah.
And one of the really exciting things is you were there for a nominal event during the run of Phantom. Tell us about that.
So I was there during the 10,000th performance on Broadway, and of course it was a milestone performance, and it was covered lots of press. We had this big party. It was this huge celebration, and it was such an honor to be a part of it. Gillian Lynn was there, and a lot of the original creative team, and a lot of the original cast was there as well in the audience watching the performance. So that was really to be a part of that.
They do one of those, group everyone on stage curtain call kind of things.
Oh yeah, you can Google all of the images from that. That was really cool. That was really cool to be a part of that. And then and then in, let's see, I think early 2012, they were going to do the 25th anniversary of Phantom that was coming up, and I think at that time they knew that they were going to bring Sierra Bajas in to play Christine. So my journey with Christine was over at that time. I was aging out of it, and I had done it for 3 years, and so they said, thank you very much. We're not going to renew your contract, which was heartbreaking at the time, of course, but like I said, I was aging out of it, and you never want to overstay your welcome, which I think if they hadn't renewed my contract, I think I would have just stayed on and on and on and on forever. But it was good. It kind of forced me to like do other things. So I thought that was the end of my journey with Phantom of the Opera. And it wasn't. And a few years later, I had the wonderful opportunity to play Carlotta again on the newly imagined tour.
It's amazing. So and Carlotta, in fact, is what you were playing when it did the tour that you were working on in February. Did that just come to a natural end, or did they come to a pause? Because Phantom seems to be forever touring, like one of those shows.
It is. People love it. And no, so this tour was a newly imagined tour. So there's the Broadway production, then there was the Broadway tour, and then there was this most recent tour that I was a part of, which Cameron McIntosh wanted to completely like reinvigorate and give new life to the show that Andrew Lloyd Webber had written. And it was the music that everyone knows and loves, but it was a different direction. Lawrence Connor directed it, and he like reimagined the show, and it's sort of more grittier, more sexy, more like real than the Broadway production.
Right.
But yeah, people compare them all the time, but they're like apples and oranges. I think they're two completely different animals. They have each has its own like unique opulence, and so yeah, it was that show ran. It opened. Let's see, it ran for 6 years, and it came to a natural end. So we had always planned to close it in February in Toronto.
Okay. And you've done both Carlotta, of course, and Christine on the road in Cleveland, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So I did both productions of Phantom in Cleveland, and I also came through Cleveland with White Christmas too. Right. So I've been on performing in Playhouse Square with 3 different huge productions, and every time it's been just this wonderful homecoming of family and friends, and like so it's been such an honor to be like interviewed with by the Plain Dealer every time I come through. It's really an amazing treat.
I was fortunate enough to see you as Christine when you came through years ago, even though it was a long, long way away. Those theaters are so cavernous, and I wished I had opera glasses that day, because I was like, Trista's there somewhere. I know she is. She's singing right now, but I can't see her.
Right. She's that little ant dancing on the stage. Yeah.
Very so true. So in all of your time in fandom, over a year on Broadway and all the other incarnations, surely you have a story or two. Mishaps, special events other than the 10,000th anniversary. We love to be the fly in the wall to hear some of those stories.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've found that I really specialize at is tripping and falling in beautiful dresses.
Nice.
I've had a few falls on stage, but luckily those dresses are so huge that they make a nice cushion for when you fall. I remember one night coming down as Christine, just during curtain call. The company for curtain call, the company separates, and they gesture to you, and then you come running down the stage, you know, full of pride after doing this amazing role for 2.5 hours. I remember I was like running down the middle of the stage and like caught my hem and just fell flat on my face. And there was this collective gasp from the company, everyone off stage, the entire audience, and I just like popped right back up and stuck the landing and took my bow. So that was fun. And I think that sort of stuff is endearing. Like audiences, it really endears you to an audience. It makes you very human.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's embarrassing at the time, but it's nice story to tell.
Yeah. If you're not badly hurt, all you can do is bounce up and laugh at yourself, right?
Right. With a bloody nose or whatever.
And the costume, the wardrobe mistress is going, no, don't bleed on the costume.
Not all over the dress, right?
Cost more than what you make in 2 months.
Oh, boy. That's true. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like many actors, you know, they try and find a little subsistence on the side in between jobs, or sometimes even during, doing a little bit of television work. And I noticed you have a couple soaps on your credit. That's kind of fun. Were those under 5 one-day shoots, or were they a little more than that? Tell us about those couple of things you worked on.
Yeah, I'm so sad that it used to be that in New York, they used to have a few soap operas that filmed here, and I'm so sad that that's not the case anymore, because it was such a great way to like make some really, really good money just for a day.
It's been replaced by Law and Order and CSI now.
Yeah. Right, which I would love to do. I've yet to do when things get going again. But yeah, you used to get a call being like, hey, do you want to play a bartender on As the World Turns? Do you want to do this? Let's see, I did, gosh, As the World Turns, I think I'd played like a bartender and like a dancer or something, a dancer on another episode. And then Guiding Light, I had like a little featured role. I played Joan Collins' maid in 3 or 4 episodes, and it was just really silly. I had like a few scenes with her, but something that I'm very proud of, and something that I'll always look back on with fondness, and something that it was a good chunk of change.
Yeah, no, those are nice. Yeah, TV got money.
Yeah, as far as side jobs go, and then as far as side jobs go, I have waited my share of tables and bartended many late night shifts. So
yeah, Joan Collins. So that's a good name, but you've got even a bigger name on your resume. You did at Bay Street Theater a play called, is it Simone's Gift? With
Simeon's Gift.
Simeon's Gift, sorry. Yeah. And with a little known actress named Julie Andrews. Right?
Yes. So Julie Andrews and her daughter Emma wrote this children's book called Simeon's Gift. It's a lovely story, and they decided to set it to music with this wonderful composer named Ricky Ian Gordon. They decided to do it at Bay Street Theater, which is where Emma lives, and I believe Julie Andrews has a house there as well. So Bay Street Theater is a very intimate regional theater, and it was a cast of five actors, and a wonderful director named Marsha Milgram Dodge, who's been nominated for her production of Ragtime on Broadway. She directed it, and Julie Andrews, since she had written the book for it, she was in all of our rehearsals, and it was an unbelievable experience to be able to go through the process, the creative process, and see her sitting out in the audience and just sort of overseeing everything. And I remember I had a song to sing, and I had a one-on-one coaching with Julie Andrews, just the piano player, myself, and Julie on the stage, and she was coaching me through the song. And I mean, talk about things that I'll never forget. That was
You're just hoping that Julie Andrews doesn't yell at you, right? Please don't yell at me, Julie Andrews.
Wouldn't that be funny? Yeah.
Harrowing.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Just so much great. And normally I would ask you what's next, but I have a feeling you're in between projects. You have any irons in the fire that you can even talk about?
Yeah. Well, I think I know one thing in my heart for sure that's going to come out of this time is I think we're about to experience another golden age of theater, and not just of theater, but of the arts as well. I think this collective pause that we've had is going to birth a lot of very, very exciting projects. And I think I know in my heart for sure that will happen, but I know that there also will be that it's going to be a while before those things can get on their feet. So
right.
As far as irons in the fire, I've been looking at going into nursing actually, and going back to school to be actually a certified nurse's assistant, or to get my LPN. That would take, I think, about a year. So I think as artists, I know I think as artists, things are going to slow down for us in the creative world. Of course, who knows what's going to happen as far as like big gatherings and productions, things like that. But I think as artists, things are going to be asked of us from our community that aren't going to be asked of us, and we might that we aren't used to, and we might have to step up in our communities in ways that we're not maybe comfortable with. But that's what we do as artists. We're resilient, and we celebrate the human spirit. And so I think we might have to step up in ways that we never anticipated. We might have to go into the healthcare fields. We might have to, I don't know, we might have to just do things that we never expected to do.
Yeah. That's an amazing perspective. I just got some sort of beep, so who knows, we may sign off here quickly, so we'll wrap this up. But I hope that even if you shift gears a little bit, that you'll keep your hand in. And I would love nothing more than the opportunity of maybe having you return the prodigal daughter to come do a project with us sometime.
Well, I'd absolutely love to. I'd love to come back to Cleveland. It's where my heart will always lie.
Well, I'm going to keep you to that. So Trista Moldovan, thank you so much for being my guest today. Appreciate you so much, and I hope you continue to stay well.
Thank you. You too. Stay safe and healthy.
Will do. All right, Scott Spence signing off. Remember, the arts need your help right now, so our website is still up and running. You can make any donations that you see fit to www.beckcenter.org. Until next time, stay safe out there. Thanks, everyone.